and all to the very first anniversary of the All for Geek Alliance YouTube channel. Today with me are some of the creators and founders of the All for Geek Alliance channel. I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with Trainer Jody.
Hello, everybody. I'm Trainer Jody. I am one of the co-founders of the All for Geek Alliance. I've had technically 3 different shows on the channel, which are all in hiatus right now while I wait for new editing software and my phone to tell me that I've discovered a secret in Zelda. So, oh, crud. Give me a second. There we go. Sorry. That was my bad. Oh, yeah, I have a personal channel, youtube.com/trainerjody. Enough about me.
All right, next person, Daniel.
Whoa! I've got this new video mixer thingy and I need to use it for reasons. Hi, I'm Daniel Wallace. I run the Plot Hook In on the All for Geek Alliance, and I pointed to the right corner of the screen. I'm a little loopy because it's 1 a.m. here, and I've been to the game night and worked all day and stuff. Why did I agree to do this? Okay, I run the Plot Hook In and love being on the All for Geek Alliance. Yay, us!
Very cool. Tommy. Tommy.
You're muted right now, Tommy.
My name is Tommy Howell, and I host a show called Narration Fixation, and my personal YouTube channel is youtube.com. I have a show on there right now.
All right, very cool. And last but certainly not least, our special guest, Jens.
Hi, thanks. I'm credited as a co-founder of the All for Geek Alliance. I'm not completely sure why. I can think of reasons, but I haven't been a creator on the All for Geek Alliance because, well, life threw a few curveballs at me and my family over the last year. But I'm certainly hoping to get back into the game.
Okay, and let's start then. Before the All for Geek Alliance was created, each of you individually was creating content on the internet. So let's start with what you were doing beforehand and kind of why you got into content creating.
I guess, seeing as I went first the last time, I'll just step in front of everyone and go first again. I started with creating a video for the Geek and Sundry vlogger search contest thingy, which is the technical term, and loved it so much. A few guys, including Jens and a gentleman that I believe still goes by the moniker King Tosh, decided to start our own collaborative channel. Didn't quite work out the way that we wanted, and so Jens and I decided to leave right around the same time, and we basically spent probably, like a month or something, kind of hashing out the ideas and everything that would eventually turn into the All for Geek Alliance. So yeah, that's kind of what I did before the Alliance got started.
Dan?
Well, I got into the whole YouTube thing pretty late, and mainly because all of my internet friends were doing it. You're seeing some of them right here somewhere. And I started a show a Hangout show. That was pretty much when everybody stopped doing Hangout shows, about BattleTech, the board game or war game or whatever it goes in German, and it went pretty well. And at some point, Jody mentioned, I think in a Hangout or somewhere, or just talking amongst ourselves, that he was really interested in doing a show about game mastering in role-playing games, but he didn't have the time, and I thought about it for a while, and then I asked Jody if he be okay with me doing the show? And he said, yeah, great. I'll be a producer or something. And well, it just felt right to do it on the Alliance then, because I wanted to kind of separate it from my personal channel because, as I said, I'm pretty much doing almost all German stuff on there, a little bit of English language stuff, but not much. And since it was Jody's project to begin with, it felt okay, or it felt right to do it on his channel. So that's how I got into it.
Tommy?
So I've been making videos since 2006, 2007. I had a trivia show that was all about music videos, where I used actual clips from music videos to frame trivia questions around. And that ran for about 25 episodes, and they're not still on YouTube for obvious reasons. But if you want to see them, I can show them to you. And then I had my partner and I did a weight loss blog for another 6 months or so. Things occasionally, very rarely. And when I heard about the Geek and Sundry talent search, I had some ideas, and I could not get the people I wanted to work with to get up to speed to do anything. So I didn't get anything done in time for that. And so I participated heavily in the voting and the watching, all the 300 people that participated. And then when all the things settled out, and I saw that Jens and Jody were trying to do something after everything had been settled with the talent search, I approached them about doing this show, Narration Fixation, as a look at the voice industry. Mainly, I was working on audiobooks, but we've kind of expanded that to video games and animation.
Yes.
YouTube creation started for me with with the Vlogger search. It feels like prehistory now, but it was only last year. Before that, I've been doing theater and writing stuff. So a bit of content creation has been going on, but not online. And yeah, my main contribution have been the Geek and Hangouts, which I think have been astonishing for me, an inspiration for other shows. And I think the most viewed Geek and Hangout was about role playing. I think that's where the initial idea for the project actually started, and with some very heavy discussions on the Geek and Sundry forums.
Yeah, and before we jump into the next topic, actually, I want to tell anybody who's watching right now, you can obviously send us a question via YouTube, the video that you're watching right now, or via the Twitter, All for Geek Alliance, or at Geeks, or at any of us, and I'll try to convey that to our panelists. You can also send me a tweet about how I'm logged in on my friend's account, which is why it comes up as Matthew every time you see my face. But anyway, alas. Let's go into each one of your shows and just talk about what it was like running the show and any things that kind of came up that were good, bad, difficult, etc., etc. This time, let's go reverse order, Jens.
Well, this is
when you felt safe.
that's a short one. I'm not doing a show right now, so nothing to report. But going back to the Geek and Hangouts, well, I think the same fun and the same problems as with any Hangout show. The technical stuff, for once, Google can be a bit.
PG-13 Jens, keep it together.
Yeah, and also, yeah, since we are working internationally, time zones, getting people together, all that fun stuff. Yeah, so that's the main problem. But the great thing is always meeting new people, talking about things you like, they like, getting to know people. So that's been my ride, and as I said, looking forward to getting back into it somewhere in the near future.
All right, Tommy.
So I had barely gotten started doing anything related to audiobooks, so I was starting from ground zero, and so I started where I started at LibriVox, and I found somebody that was proficient at LibriVox that came on and talked to my first episode. And then I had somebody else in mind. I started asking other people that I knew that were doing related work, and I wasn't getting a whole lot of interest and contact back. So I finally got another person scheduled, and we had a second show. And so things started becoming a little easier after that. I was able to join other Facebook groups and subreddits and things, and other forums, and I would get like one person from each one I joined. And so that's basically how I scheduled more than half of my guests, and eventually I was able to ask my guests who else I should talk to, and that's how I got 2 or 3 others.
All right, Dan?
Yeah, technical difficulties are obviously a constant thing you have to deal with these Hangout shows. And also the ability of people to read and follow simple instructions. Like, I will send out the invites about 40 minutes before the show starts. It would be really great if you would be there about 20 minutes before the show starts. If you don't know how to do this, please contact me and come on a little earlier so we can figure things out. Nope. Yeah, great fun. Things that went well. I think we really got some great discussions on my show, which was the goal. I wanted to get away from the format of me asking questions and people answering them. I sometimes get back to that a little bit, especially if I've got a whole lot of questions because I don't know the topic that well. But to be honest, I mainly do this show because it's fun for me and because I get to talk to great people. And I think Don has said that in the past, and I think I've talked about this with Jody and Jens. It's a really great thing. If you want to talk to somebody you've always wanted to talk to, and you just tell them, "Hey, would you come on and hang out and talk to me for an hour or something?" They will say, "Yeah, go away, creep." If you say, "Hey, I'm hosting this show, and it would be really great to have you," you can talk to them for an hour, and so that's been great.
Yeah, I second that. I mean, going back to what's been well, last year in October, Jack Conti and Joel Watson was on the Hangout show was just crazy stuff. Talking to those kind of people with that kind of high profile, it's really amazing.
Yeah, not to bring down anybody else, but having Scalagrim on the last show, more than 200,000 subscribers on YouTube, pretty much the most important historical European martial arts YouTuber worldwide. Great. I just wrote an email.
I love how Don's tried to throw it to me like 3 times now.
I somehow...
It's fun.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Okay. Jody, you go.
Hi. See, I'm the only person that doesn't do live Hangout shows on the channel right now.
Don't do it. It's terrible.
Yeah. And I'm actually, I'm actively, constantly going out and searching for new talent, specifically ones that don't make live Hangout shows. Not because they're bad, but because it's all we have. I guess the technical difficulties that I run into is just, like, what's happened to me now is the fact that I don't actually have access to my editing software, and I haven't since, I think, August. And so I put my shows on hiatus until I can get good quality editing software, because most of them I've been editing on Premiere Pro, which is an amazing, fantastic, wonderful program, and without access to that, I can't cut and edit my shows. So I guess that's been the biggest technical difficulty. And then just dealing with being completely self-taught on video editing. I mean, I've been lucky enough that I've been able to speak with, like, Elias Thompson has been wonderful in giving me tips and tricks on how to edit my videos better. I do a lot of YouTube research. Like, there's just a plethora of knowledge out there. So I guess those have been the biggest kind of technical difficulties I've had. Yeah, I guess the biggest triumph, for the best thing that's happened to me was probably the Lore Explorer episode that I did with Elias about the Zelda creation myth, because it exploded, and a lot of people reacted very positively to it, and Elias and I had a blast doing it. Like, we had so much fun creating it and then editing it all together and everything, like, and laughing at all the really stupid jokes that I put into it. It was great. So.
Yeah, actually, I want to get a little deeper now into the creation of your content. You mentioned being one of the only guys without the live Hangout format. Let's talk about length here. And aside from comparing live Hangout to just editing, when you're in a, let's say, live Hangout to the majority of you guys, are you conscious of how long the conversation is going? Do you have a set time in there, or do you kind of let it go depending on the feel of the guests and things like that? And then when we kick it to Jody, we can talk about how long you like to have your content.
Well, I tell the guest I'll keep them 20 to 30 minutes, and we've had it go as long as like 40 minutes. So I try to give them some expectation of how long we're going to go, and then try to let them go a little bit early.
Yeah, my goal is, I'm very conscious of the time to a point. My goal is about 45 minutes. If I don't have many guests, we usually do about an hour. And when we are really into it, it's an hour 10, an hour 15. But I usually would pull the plug at an hour 20. So that's the absolute maximum, because my producer is going to yell at me if we run longer than that. Rightfully so.
Yeah, the Hangout shows, the Geek and Hangouts, I think, are infamous for the running time. I think we had one that went over 2 hours. But I tried. My goal was always to keep it at an hour. I seldom succeeded.
How long was the Hangout show? the RPG show?
I have no clue. I have to look it up. I think it's one of the longer ones.
Yeah.
But I did mostly go with the flow. So if the conversation started to get interesting, we kept going. And sometimes after the official show closed, we kept going a lot longer as well.
Which is where the real fun conversations happened.
That's actually an important thing to do, is you bond with your guest when you're off air.
Yeah, I'll add my 3 cents here because I'm not part of the channel, but I've found in my podcasts and my Hangouts and things like that, you'll almost get better content once you turn off the record button, because then I don't know if it's because you've worn your person down and they're just now opening up and they're less of either selling or representing themselves and being more of their natural selves or whatever, but for some reason it seems to be a lot of the best stuff comes out when you turn off the record and you're talking for an hour and a half. Now, Trainer, Jody, you said you are the only guy who doesn't do live Hangout stuff, so let's talk about how you like to structure your content and what type of length you want to keep it at.
I started off, the first 2 shows that I put on the channel were D&D High, which is a bi-weekly web series, and a show called Training Day. When I first started doing Training Day, I didn't script it. I planned it ahead of time, and I knew what I was going to talk about, but I didn't actually script it. And I found out that it was really hard for me to keep to kind of the golden rule of YouTube and vlogs and stuff like that, is this 5-minute mark. And I never got anywhere close to it until I started scripting. So for Training Day, which has been on hiatus for a little while, and then Lore Explorer, which is my new show that's technically on hiatus but will be coming back, I try to keep to right around the 5 to 6 minute mark, simply because that's kind of the golden range for YouTube content. too much shorter than that, and a lot of people won't think it's important. Too much longer than that, and you lose the focus of your audience. So that's generally what I try to stick to, and I will modify scripts and cut out certain aspects to keep it to within that range. For D&D High, because it's a weekly web series, I can get away with it being a little bit longer. It used to be half-an-hour long episodes. I found out my audience liked it a little bit better when I chopped it down to about anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes. And yeah, so I mean, the basics of the time limits that I put on any of my content are based around what my viewing audience enjoys and getting out whatever message I want to get out. For Lore Explorer, I have a specific subject that I pick. I need to get through the whole subject, because if I only get through half, then it's kind of a weird, awkward video. So, and that's true about everything. I'll have a specific subject. I'll get through that subject as quickly and succinctly as I can, and then, you do all the YouTube, oh, like, subscribe, share this with all your friends, listen to my bad jokes.
Fair enough.
Yeah. If I can butt in here for a moment, I'm at the moment I'm creating online courses professionally, and we do a lot of video and the same time range. We use the same time range for professional videos as well in that area. So 5 to 8 minutes for one topic. This seems like a good time frame for everything.
Yeah, it is almost ironic then that there's so many Hangout shows on this channel when we're kind of agreeing that it seems like people can't keep their attention beyond 5 minutes, yet 20-minute shows, 45-minute shows, hour and a half long shows are what are making up the mass of this content.
I think interactivity is the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I do listen to a lot of talk shows on the radio because I'm in my car a lot and on the Autobahn a lot. So you don't listen all the time with all your attention. But there are some topics or some talking points that really interest you, and you kind of zone in and out with your attention. And I think it's the very same with the Hangout shows. I'm pretty sure that many people don't actually watch the Hangout shows, but just listen to them while doing their chores or whatever, and just have the laptop running somewhere. And if they are not listening live, and I don't know about you, Tommy, but the amount of people watching the Plot Hook in live is in no relation to the overall views.
Right.
So I think most of the people just, if they hear something that really interests them, they just walk to the laptop and set it back a minute or so and listen to this 5-minute part and then go do something else or something like that. At least that's how I listen to these shows and how I have experienced that other people do it.
Then let's move a little longer. Then you also mentioned getting the contact with people and just using email. How do you get your guests or your collaborators on the show? Is it primarily email or Twitter or what is it? And what's the process? Maybe trying to get them on because we are still relatively new channels.
With me, it all starts with a topic, and since I draw a lot of ideas from discussions I'm having with people on the Geek and Sundry forums or other places, oftentimes I already know that I want 1 or 2 guests on the show. And I just ask them, and then I will ask some of my regulars maybe, and I always ask my guests if they know somebody that they would suggest to be on the show, and that's how I get my guests. Just ask them by whatever means necessary.
I know Daniel and I work together with the Plot Hook. I'm going to try that again. Work together on the Plot Hook in a lot. And there have been times where, I'll shoot him an email or I'll shoot him a tweet or something and say, hey, do you have all your guests and everything? He's like, I'm one or two short, and then I start scouring my contacts. I know one of the regulars is actually a guy that plays at my D&D table every Wednesday, and it was simply just going up to him and from doing it so often, like I have a list of probably about 24 different people that I have shout out emails or personal messages through YouTube or whatever for either the Plot Hook Inn or any of the other shows that we've been developing. So I kind of have a script that I follow just from saying it over and over again of, well, this is the show and this is the idea behind the show. This is what you'd be expected to do. It's a lot of fun. You get to listen to a crazy German guy, go off on crazy tangents. It's great. Yeah, it's surprising how receptive a lot of people that I wouldn't think would be into it. Like, I was blown away when I was able to get the guy that was, I can never remember his name, but he's amazing. The one that was on your historical European martial arts. Yeah, Solargrim, there we go. Because I knew his wife, right? Kara's his wife or his girlfriend?
They are married.
Mm-hmm. So I knew her through Daniel because we'd been in Daniel actually GM'd a role-playing game that I was a part of through Google Plus Hangouts for like a month and a half or something like that. But I'd never met her husband, and he was able to get both of them on, and then Kristen Brumley, who's a phenomenal, amazing person that we met through. I think she was on Geek on Hangouts at least once, and like it's all this interconnected stuff. And he approached him, set up everything, and just it was a phenomenal show.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to put in their 2 cents? Well, I'll say.
I'll just kind of clam up.
If I can butt in Jens for a second, the idea that Jody put together of like kind of having a standard pitch, I like to think of it almost like I actually have just a file copy job that I like to do where I just put in like, hey, here's who I am, here's what the show is, and here's the type of people I've had on. And actually the only thing I change is as I get luckier and get better and better guests on my podcast, I update that list or change it to people who might be relevant to the guest I'm trying to get, just to be like, hey, I happen to have had a social media manager, or I happen to have had a doctor in physics, just trying to use that to kind of weasel baby them in.
And it also helps to have great shows that you are really convinced are great, at least, and that your friends have told you are great. No, it's really good to have a back catalog of shows that you are proud to show people, because you can just include them in the mail and say, hey, this is what you're getting into, and I think it also helps to set up to already write them how this is going to go down. For the Plot Again, for example, we do a little pre-show that often gets cut short because of technical difficulties and stuff like that, and people not getting invites and having problems getting on the Hangout and everything. But we do actually have a warm-up, and I try to talk to everyone on the Hangout before we go live, and it really shows. I'm pretty certain you can point out the shows where I did it and the shows where I didn't do it, because people just are different from the get-go.
The main thing that I did different on my show is that I had a list. I outlined like a list of 16 topics that I wanted to cover during the course of the season, and so as I covered each one, I would take them off the list of people that I was pitching to. So I need somebody that's
there's those technical difficulties.
I like that. So, and that helped
Tommy, could
focus
Tommy, could you please repeat your list, because you kind of fell out there, so we couldn't get any of that.
I don't think I actually listed anything but auditioning. So I just said I have a list of all these items. So I had like poetry and auditioning and casting, and so I would just have the list of the things that I was looking for the current episode. It's like I don't care which one we cover next. They're not in any specific order. But if you think you have an expertise on one of these topics, let's do that. And so that's how I got two or three of the early guests was saying, I need somebody for one of these topics. Which do you think you're good at? You know. I still have a couple of topics that we haven't been able to get to because the last several guests I got all had kind of interesting niches that were worth discussing just by themselves.
And let's talk about the concept of a good show, or maybe the show that you present to people as this is what my product is.
Just one more thing to getting guests. The Geek and Hangout started out with a pool of vlogger search, more or less. And as Jody said, if you have an idea, it's amazing how well people respond. So when I had topical shows for writing, I asked a lot of my writer friends, and we did these. We tried to have the charity thing, the Global Geekend, last fall. And if you have got that kind of hook, you get also it's a lot easier to get people in if you have a specific cause in mind.
And now, kind of reintroducing the topic, I had the honor of being at a panel at DragonCon with the likes of Veronica Belmont and various other podcasters who were kind of big in the field, and they always talked about when you're kind of new to the podcasting game, when you come to somebody, have the episode that you think this is exactly what encompasses the show, this is my best foot, so they can kind of see why they should get into your show. Not to play favoritism on any of the guests you've had or any of the shows you've made, but do you have in mind a show that you're like, yes, this is exactly what my product or my show is?
Yes. And
Tell us about
changes. That changes every time I make a new show. Up to this point, my last show has always been my favorite show because I feel like I stepped up my game every time. And I'm just now getting to the point where I feel like I've got like the last 3 shows where certain things went well. So for me, it's always almost always the last show I did, and the last 3 shows maybe at this point. So. In one, the conversation flowed really, really well. In another one, the conversation flowed okay, but I asked too many questions, and so yeah, but it's getting better all the time, so that changes.
I'm going to say a specific one of mine. It's not the last show, even though my last episode had probably the most well-known guest. A little bit of undercurrent to that, but I would say if you want a really funny show, go see the one with Sam Khalidi. It's just I kind of let him go, and he's doing stand-up comedy now, so he's very funny.
I'd say depending on which show I'm talking about, I tend to point to, for training day, I tend to point to one of the ones during my How to Be a Dungeon Master series, simply because once I got done with that series, it changed how I viewed training day, and it really kind of shaped it to the point where I finally decided to go, you know what, guys, I'm going to kind of revamp the whole show and change it a little bit. So, and then with Lore Explorer, it's probably going to be, I think I've only had 2. I think I've only had like 2 or 3 episodes of Lore Explorer, which is kind of sad when you think about it. But it's definitely the one I did with Elias for the Zelda Creation Myth, because I put a lot of work into it. I went kind of that extra mile to make sure that not only did I get good takes of everything I did, but that all of his stuff fit in really, really well. We actually did a table read of the whole script through Google Plus Hangout to make sure that we both knew what was going on, and we actually rewrote parts of the script because, you know, once I got his input, it was like, okay, well, let's do this and this and this and this and this, and yeah, the finished product turned into a really, really solid piece of work that I kind of use. I actually, and I told Elias this when I was doing it. I'm like, as soon as this goes up, I hope you realize I will be mentioning to anyone I try to do a collab with from now on, this is what collabing with me is like, and I will point them to this episode because it turned out really, really good. So.
It's good that you mentioned actually promoting yourself, because let's talk about that in this world now with so many social media outlets and so many ways. And Jens, please, if you had a addition to that, please tell me so I don't start another conversation without your input.
I would actually, I would not right now, but I would love to come back to the topic. What makes a good show? We started, but we didn't really talk about it. Just what are good shows for us, not what makes a good show in general. So not necessarily right now, but would like to come back to that.
Fair enough. Time is on our side. In regards to promotion, what do you like to do? Any difficulties dealing with it? Go.
I know, and I've actually talked to the rest of the group about this. I tend to be the one that does a large part of the promoting for the channel, just because it's still kind of my baby. You know, I mean, I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into this longer than anyone else has thus far, and I consider myself the producer, and Daniel lovingly refers to me as his producer, because that's the position I take. I kind of sit behind the scenes and I'll go over stuff and make sure that, you know, we're sending out tweets and we're updating our Facebook page and all these other things, because as much as I think we've got good shows, we could have the best shows in the world, but if nobody knows about them, then it's still just us talking to ourselves. Which isn't the worst thing in the world, don't get me wrong. You know, if that's the reason that you create content on YouTube, congratulations. You know, have a blast with it. You can have a lot of fun. But I think all of us in the channel want to be able to reach an audience and want people to be able to understand our passions about these topics. So, yeah, I've found that Facebook, the demographic that you reach on Facebook is significantly different than the demographic you reach on Twitter, which is significantly different than the demographic you reach on Reddit. So when you kind of figure out who it is that you want to talk to, I generally tend to use Twitter for just about everything because it's really easy. And it reaches a huge audience. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but that tends to be my big one, and it's a lot of. I've done everything from when I mention certain people on an episode or something like that, or I talk about something that other people I know are interested in, I will send them direct tweets where it's like, hey, blah blah, I talked about this and you talked about this, check it out, and that will increase views and just get us more exposure, simply because maybe they'll reply or maybe they'll retweet it or something.
Yeah, you phrased the question in the form of what we like to do promotion-wise. I don't like to do promotion. I'm sorry. I really don't like it at all. What I usually do is Geek and Sundry forums, G+, tabletop community on G+, and Twitter. And that's about it. And that works out to something between 24 and 80 some views on my show, which is pretty amazing, I have to say. If I imagine 80-some people together in an auditorium to listen to me and some other nerds blurb for about an hour about role-playing and game mastering, great. So yeah, I don't like the promotion part. I understand that it's kind of important, and to get more interesting guests, you kind of have to have the views. And I really love to hear from my audience, and like to hear things I did good, obviously, but also things I did bad. And it's really amazing to get recognized because somebody has watched your YouTube show. Hasn't happened with the plot hook in yet, but since my German Mech Warrior or Battletech show has a couple of hundred views on some of the episodes, and I think the German Battletech is maybe 1,000 people, little more than that. I'm just guessing here, but I meet my audience a lot on conventions, and meeting somebody who tells, and you start to introduce yourself, and they're like, yeah, I know, I watched your show. That's amazing. It would be really, really great if that at some point happened with the plot hook in, because it's they don't only they really validate the work you put into it. It sometimes can be a lot of work. I'm really lazy. That's why I do a Google Plus Hangout show, because it's not that much work. But you have to schedule the whole thing with the time zones and everything. You stay up late for some of the shows. You have to come up with topics and lists of talking points and send them out to everybody, and to have all of this to some degree valued by somebody saying, I know you. It's really great. I really don't know how I got here, but I will stop talking now.
I had a dime for every time I said that.
Also, that's what she said.
I agree with Jody and with Daniel on promotion. These are the things you do, and I don't like it. One more thing to add. It's really helpful if you can get your guests to promote the show they are on. And it's amazing how seldom they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, because I have to do the research to find a guest, and wherever I found the guest is usually where I promote that guest. And I really should probably be going back to all the places I found all the previous guests and saying, hey, I've got a new show, new guest, and it's kind of the same audience.
Yeah, just do the Amazon.com thing. Hey, people who watch this show will probably be interested in this show.
Exactly.
One of the other things that we've recently started doing is kind of the same cross-promotion that Geek and Sundry does, where at the end of my shows, I will always have a link or a mention of another show on the channel, and I think everyone else has slowly but surely kind of jumped on that bandwagon, just because the audience that tunes in to Daniel's show is a very different audience than tunes into Tommy's show, which is a very different audience than tunes into my shows, and so by kind of sharing our audiences, we kind of self-promote just within the channel. And that was one of the big reasons why I wanted to do a collaboration channel as opposed to just going out on my own and just worrying about my personal channel. Is the idea of people getting together and helping each other and learning from each other. That was the whole purpose of the All for Geek Alliance. It still is.
Jens brought up this great point, and I kind of want to now phrase into the next question. It's, do you make good shows, and what do you consider to be good?
Well, they're good for you
I
too.
make a great show. And I'm only saying that because it's exactly the kind of show I had to make it because I wanted to watch it. And I watch all of my own shows, which sounds kind of narcissistic, but narcissist, whatever, self-indulged. Mainly not because well, also because I like to hear myself talk, but mainly because I've got a completely different position and completely different view of it just watching it passively. Um, I think everybody doesn't like see themselves talk on the screen at first, but gets over that at some point. We all have went through that, I guess. But I watch the show very differently from when I'm making it, because I am constantly monitoring Twitter and YouTube comments and the Q&A app, and you're trying to stay on time, and you're trying to get through your talking points, and thinking about, okay, we will talk about this longer, so I will just leave this out, and but I really want to talk about this, and you've got so much going on that I always find new things when I'm rewatching the show where I'm like, how did I not catch that? So it's kind of a new experience for me, and I watch a lot of debates and just people talking to each other and other hangout shows and about a wide variety of topics. And role-playing games happens to be my favorite hobby of them all, and the one I've been doing for the longest time. And I don't know if there are any shows that are even remotely the same format as the Plot Again. So I think I make a great show, and at least for me, it's the perfect show for me to watch, and nobody else does it, so I have to.
And I think Daniel makes a really good point about what makes a good show. Again, as I mentioned before, I kind of act as producer for everything on the channel, and one of the things that I consider like my biggest job is to make sure that everything on the channel is quality, and is in my personal opinion, I think also it needs to be constantly improving, because what's quality for us now, in a year from now when we're revisiting this, we're going to go, wow, I can't believe that's what I used to do. And I've seen it in my own content. I look at some of the first episodes of my vlogs and my daily vlogging and stuff like that, and then I look at the stuff that I do now, and it's night and day. So with what Daniel said of, he creates a show that he wants to watch, that's whenever I get someone that pitches a show idea to me, or whenever I'm trying to develop a new show or a new idea, that's basically the first thing that I focus on is this something that I would sit down at my computer, open up YouTube, and a little thumbnail would be there where it would just say, this is the new show. Would I click on that? Would I sit there and watch the whole thing? Or would I watch 30 seconds of it, get bored, and then go look for some video involving cats? And that's what I tend to do. I work a lot more with Daniel than I do with Tommy, just because Tommy is phenomenally amazing and has just really kind of taken control of his show and gone with it. Daniel and I sit down normally at least after every show once, because he only does his once a month. We'll sit down, have a hangout. We'll discuss what we liked about the last episode, what we didn't like. We'll talk about things that we want to try differently. We'll talk about things that we want to make sure stay exactly the same. And we, as much as Daniel claims to be lazy, we both put a lot of work into that little hour show that you see once a month. I mean, we've probably spent 2 or 3 hours just between the two of us talking about it, and then probably another, I don't know, half a dozen to a dozen hours every month that we'll put in just doing research on topics or looking, rewatching certain aspects to go, did this work, did it not work? So yeah, I think it all boils down to exactly what he said. Is this something that I want to watch? And is this something that, and I kind of put the other tag of, is this something that I think other people want to watch? It's great if I want to watch it, but I also want to reach an audience. I want other people to get excited about this. So is this something I think other people will want to watch too?
And that's the hard part about working in a vacuum is you're not getting enough comments to know what we need to improve on or what is or is not working necessarily.
Yeah.
Gins.
Yeah, good shows. I think, yeah, what the others said. For me, a big part is curiosity. Is this a topic I can get curious about? This is for me the point where I where I select what I'm doing, because I think curiosity is the main driver for, well, we have mainly a geek audience. I think that's the main driver. And so can I get curious about it? That's one thing. And one thing I always look for in a show is, did I learn something, or did it entertain me? So these are the two main factors I'm looking for. And I personally, in the long run, I want to be. I think learning something new is more motivating than just being entertained, because entertainment is dime a dozen.
For me, it's even more. Was at least one of my views or one thing that I thought I knew challenged, and that's mainly why I really love this show, because I have pretty strong opinions, as you all probably know, but I really love them to be challenged, and I really like to get something out of that, and change my opinions around a little bit, and maybe even just drop one of them, which rarely happens because I have strong opinions.
Are there any guests or topics that you haven't had or want to discuss with your show?
This is going to be a long topic. I'm just going to put that out there.
So
Daniel,
maybe
would you like to go
just
first?
start, Jody, and we will mute your mic then.
I go lie down, and you can tell me that.
We'll throw something at the screen when we're done. I think, we've said it before a couple different times. Like, the reason we do a lot of these shows is because we want something out of them. I mean, yeah, we want to entertain and all this other stuff, but Blair Beveridge, amazing, wonderful person, said many times, he's like, you know what? My favorite part about Webisode Watch is the fact that I get to meet some of my idols, and I think I've approached two other people to do collabs with me for Lore Explorer, simply because I want to work with them, not because I think that the show couldn't go on without them or anything like that. It's simply because I want to work with these people. And I go, well, I have this show that I do collaborations on, and it gives me a legitimate reason to do that. So as far as topics I want to discuss and people that I want to work with in that, I literally have a list about a mile long that I am slowly crossing names off. And once I get it large enough, once I get my collabs to a certain point, I reach out to the next, I guess, higher tier of guests, to the point where eventually I want to see if I can't get some of my favorite Geek and Sundry vloggers to do a collab with me. So, yeah, I mean, the list is almost endless. Anybody else?
I didn't really listen.
Which is fairly typical in a conversation between Dan and I. So.
Yeah. Well, I think I've said that before. I always like the guests that are best for the topic, and but one guest that I really want on my show is Patrick Rothfuss. And
Oh well, come on, yeah.
yeah, but that's about it. No, I'm having a whole lot of guests in mind that I would really like on the show, and I don't really know if I should mention them. But yeah, there are a whole lot of people I really, really want on the show. Well, I can as well say they would never watch this probably. So two guests I would really like to have on the show, but I'm not really sure if I can get there, are Lloyd from Linebeige and Matt Easton from Schola Gladiatoria. That are pretty much the other two channels about historic European martial arts. And they have both mentioned multiple times that they are role players and game masters and whatever. And those two would be really great. And yeah, a whole lot of writers that I, in some cases, personally know who write RPG stuff, who would also be really great. And da, da, da.
People and topics. I really would love to do something about. Yeah, I mentioned it before. Tough love. What irks me about my favorite fandoms? So we love to hate parts of our fandom. So the things that get me angry about Star Wars, for example, something like that. While I still love it. Same for Star Trek and so on. That would be something I would be into.
Do the show, Jens. You've been talking about this for weeks now. Do the show.
Wouldn't it be great if you could have Lucas on? I'd love to see how you could say that to him.
No, George. About you writing dialogue. You really need to have them say this, because no one speaks like that ever in any galaxy.
So George, this midichlorians thing.
Yeah, also Moffat and character development. Yeah. Yeah, exactly that kind of stuff. And I also would love to talk to more creators. I really enjoyed the Global Geekend last fall, talking just to other creators and find out what makes them tick, what got them into creating, and how they do it. I'm really interested in the creative process in general. So those are two things I would really love. So, for example, working my way through a Patreon list or something like that.
Okay. Moving on to the next topic. Now let's talk about things you want to do to improve your content, be it a technical thing, be it a personal thing, maybe getting better at your word choice, your flow, maybe getting more topics across, not going long on tangents. Do you have any of these things where you criticize yourself and want to get better at?
Let me start because it's short. Just do stuff again. Period.
Yeah. I've got so many things to improve, I can't even mention them all. Technical stuff to begin with. As I said, I've got this really nice video mixer now. Well, it's Manicam. But it's pretty nice, and I've actually played around with it a bit on a Hangout with Jens, and found out that it got a lot better with the last update. Yeah, I have been doing this little sketch on the beginning of the show, and I'm liking it, or kind of an intro, and I'm really not sure where I'm going with that. Yeah, and also in terms of the flow, as I mentioned, I really want this to be, I really want my show to be in not too curated discussion, or just a chat maybe between some people who are. I really try to emulate the type of conversations that I'm having all the time in breaks in games or on conventions and all of this. If you're just hanging out and everybody has gone to bed and you've got still some beer to finish and you start talking about dungeons, and you're like, yeah, well, they don't really make any sense, but I like them, and this kind of talk, some of the Geek and Sundry forum people will recognize the topic, and that's where I want to go. But doing that, if everybody is sitting in front of camera and knows that people are watching this, or maybe you are watching this, is actually really hard. So yeah, so many things to improve.
Yeah, I think, and this is a conversation that Daniel and I have had on multiple occasions. Just the idea that the things that we want to improve this month are going to be very different than the things that we want to improve next month. Um, you know, I think the first or second after the first or second episode of the Plot Hook In, we kind of sat down and said, you know what, we really, Daniel mentions, like, I really want this to be more discussion-based than, an interview-based thing. And it wasn't working the way that we wanted it to, and so we just sat down and said, well, what if we did this, and what if we did this? And the current kind of warm-up that he uses before his shows was kind of what we came up with, and now that he's using it regularly, like he said before, it improves it and gets it exactly the way he wants it to be. And from a viewer perspective, I think it's that much more enjoyable to watch. And so we're constantly kind of sitting down and re-going over, like, okay, well, this is where the show is at now. What do we want it to be the next time? Why can't we just stay at this level? And I think that's the question I constantly ask myself is, why don't I want to stay where I am right now? What is it about this that makes my content different from someone that's, on a major network show or something like that? What do I need to do next to bring this to the exact place I want it to be?
Anyone else?
Fair
enough. I guess everyone else is perfect. No, it's completely fine. All right, since we are talking about improving ourselves, where do you want the show, each of your own, to be in, let's say, 2 years?
Let me start. I'm not sure if my show will be here in 2 years. I'm really sorry. I would really love to tell you otherwise, but I'm kind of that type of guy who goes through these phases, and I really enjoy doing this and doing YouTube stuff in general, but that might have changed completely in 2 years. So it would be great if it would still be here in 2 years. So I would obviously like to reach at least a couple of hundred views on a regular basis. That I don't live under the illusion that it will ever gather an audience bigger than that, but a couple of hundred views would be really, really cool. And if we could achieve that at any time, great, I'm done. Drop the mic.
Well, the thing I'd have to say about in 2 years is not that necessarily I want to be doing narration fixation specifically, but I would like to be doing a show about something that I am currently interested in. So, like Daniel said, but take what I've learned doing all these other shows that I've done, whether it was Moment of Minutia or, Please Feed the Bears or whatever. All of those things, I learned something new doing each of those that adds on to what I'm doing, in whatever I'm currently working on.
I tend to agree with Tommy on this one. The idea of I don't know where my specific shows are going to be in 2 years. D&D High, I have planned out in my head probably 4 or 5 seasons in addition to what I have already. Like I'm only 4 episodes into season 2. We probably have another, I don't know, 15 episodes in season 2, and then I have, the next 4 or 5 seasons planned. As long as I have the people willing to do it, I want it to keep getting better. I want it to better quality recording. I'm looking at investing in lavalier mics and things like that, and stuff, so I can get higher quality audio and can mix it better. I just purchased a whole suite of programs that will give me much more control over thumbnails and things like that. So I'm constantly trying to improve and give it a quality that makes it look professionally done. So I guess that's kind of where I'm hoping within the next 2 years to see my personal stuff going.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about what I see for the channel after everyone else talks. So.
Yeah, I agree completely. So take what you learned, get better, and get into the habit, the routine of creation again. That's my main point at the moment. To just carve out that time in the week to do stuff for myself. And I hope that in 2 years I will have accomplished that at the latest.
As far as go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, thanks. And I think Tommy and I probably have the same problem, which is our shows are rather specific. So we will eventually run out of topics, and at least out of topics that are worth doing a whole hour or something, or 20 minutes or 30 minutes in your case. Show about show of that length, whatever. I don't know where this sentence started. So and that's gonna happen, but there's always another show. I've got this great show called Mixtapes I will have to talk about. Sorry for everybody who didn't get the inside joke.
Well, maybe I need to pitch that show to you that I pitched to Jody the other day and see if we can. Because it sounds very similar to what you're talking about.
So
maybe that's the the third heat that we need, Jody.
Yeah, maybe that's exactly what it is. As far as as far as for the channel, I want to see us doing more. I want to see more people join the alliance. I'd love to see more people making scripted content compared to the plethora of Hangout shows that we have. And I want to see, like, Tommy and I, the cool thing about the relation that the relationship that Tommy and I have is that he is constantly coming up with new show ideas, and so am I. And so he and I will pitch show ideas to each other, and then slowly develop them over months and months and months.
And we're in the same time zone.
Yeah, which is really useful. Even though we're technically on opposite sides of the country,
Yes.
we're just in the same, and it's great. So, I mean, we've got one show that literally, once we iron out a few details, would probably be ready for production within a couple of months here. We've got another one that we just started talking about a couple days ago. So I like that, but I would really love to see more people bring content to the channel. I mean, the channel itself is growing. I think the last time I checked, we were at 80 subscribers, which is phenomenal. So a lot of the smaller YouTubers, I tend to encourage anyone that's watching. If you are a smaller YouTuber, you want to get into YouTube or something, contact me. We literally have just set up an email account for the All for Geek Alliance, where you can send all inquiries and things like that. It is, and this is really creative, guys. So you'll want to write this down. It is allforgeekalliance@gmail.com. I know it took me a few hours to come up with that one. All one word, all lowercase, no numbers. So if you guys have an idea for a show, or you just want to be a part of a show, you have no idea. We literally have 2 shows on the back burner right now that if we could just get one more person involved, might go from, hey, this is a cool idea, to, hey, the show starts on Monday. So contact me. We have a brand new Twitter account that we just created. I will be tweeting about it probably nonstop for like a month and annoying the hell out of all my followers. But we are now at AFG Alliance on Twitter, so you can find us there. Tweet us. Join the alliance. Fight the rebel. Or wait a minute, wrong show.
All about that race, no rebels.
But yeah, so anyone that's interested, please contact us. We want to hear from you. We want more people to be involved. It's a great, supportive place to grow, and kind of the creed of the channel is geeks getting together to change each other, to improve each other. We want to learn from each other. And thus far, this first year, it's been phenomenal. It's been amazing. We have all grown and changed over and over and over again, and I can definitely see over the next year even more amazing things happening.
We should all do the "We Want You" thingy here.
Yeah. Well, you're the one with the fancy little video thingy.
Yeah, I only have this. I'm sorry. I'm a tree.
We'll need a meme of me just going, I want you to join the alliance.
All right, well, if people do want to join the alliance, or if they want to contact each of you individually, gentlemen, tell them what's the best method.
Twitter.
Specifically what?
At Evil Dan Wallace in my case. It's Evil Dan Wallace, like Dan Wallace and evil, because I have a beard, and the evil ones always have the beard, or the goatee, or the sideburns, or whatever beard.
Or the German accent.
Darkest Timeline, 6 seasons in a movie.
So I'm Winbear on Twitter, or winbeartx@gmail.com. I couldn't, because I started my YouTube account before Google bought them, I couldn't match the Gmail account.
The easiest is probably Twitter, which is kind of communication central. So at Mr. Grottenroll, and from there you can find everything else.
And for me, Twitter is the easiest way to reach me because I have it linked on my phone, so I'm always connected to it. But that's at Trainer Jody. You can always comment on any of my videos here on the All for Geek Alliance or on my personal channel, which is youtube.com/TrainerJody. I read all of my, every single one of my comments I read and try to reply to all of them. So, yeah.
And lastly, for me, if you want to contact me, it's at Geek Story on Twitter. So it's the best way to contact me. And also, I host the #Cocktails podcast, which you'll hear usually every Friday. Just look that up on Podbean or iTunes. And for the gentlemen of All for Geek Alliance, I want to thank you for watching. And remember, stay classy, Internet.